welcome back to our class. Today we are talking about artificial intelligence, and we have the new artificial intelligence, the students presenting their details. I think it's important for this younger generation, you guys, to be very well aware of it, since it will be impacting your employment. Some people think that it may be something in the future. I have had some classes in the past where the students have actually had the artificial intelligence, like almost everybody is aware of OK Google and Siri with Apple, and you should be aware of IBM and the Watson. Some of the students' presentations in the past have had those actually debating with each other in class, and it was very, very interesting. And it was quite clear that IBM's Watson is significantly ahead of the others in the conversation and the reasoning skills. What is important for our class to know is how it is actually impacting you guys in your future with your jobs and employment. Some people think that it's just a luxury, but it is impacting a lot of jobs already. And if you guys are aware of details, it will help for your future. So today we have several students that are in a group talking about it. Hyanak Do and Pak Yebin and Sa Jungwoo, you guys are able to present. Hyanak Do, you already have the screen share co-hosting details. Anything else you guys need before you take over?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, class. Before we start the presentation, I just want to have a small relaxing time with you. So here, I believe that you can see like 6 pictures. Can you like identify which picture is the one the humans have drawn? Class? Anybody here?
I can't. I would guess maybe B.
B and
I just don't know. That's too hard for me. Like I don't know at all. I don't
feel
know.
free. It's okay.
I would say like C probably.
C?
Yeah.
You think like C is the only picture that human has drawn?
Oh, no, D.
You mean like C and D? What about professor? You said B, right?
Sure, I'm picking B.
So you think like B is the only picture that like human is the only painting that the human has drawn, right? You think like that?
Sure. I have no idea. I am not a great artist. What do you think, Arthur, Julie? You guys have a guess?
I think all human do the picture.
I think none.
Personally, I pick all.
Right? Actually, like the picture B, I mean the painting B and C are the only pictures that humans have drawn. And I'm not sure whether you figured out that one song is playing now, right? Can you listen to it?
No, I can't hear.
Now can you listen to it?
Yes.
Yeah, these are all the results of AI. Like as you can see, like AI technology has been so much developed now, and it is looking to step beyond the human capacity. So what we are going to tell you is about artificial intelligence. And yeah, and this is the table of contents. So what is AI? As in term, intelligence is the ability of mind to learn, understand, reason, and take decisions and form ideas of given reality. But the technology called artificial intelligence is any technology which enables human to mimic human behavior and is the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines especially computer system. And these processes including learning, reasoning, and self-correction. And when it goes to history of artificial intelligence, uh, in 1950, Alan Turing, the father of artificial intelligence, wrote a paper, Computing Machinery Intelligence. And the paper shows how machines can be thought of and how intelligent machines can be developed and machine learning. And in 1956, John McCarthy held an academic conference with 10 scientists in Dartmouth College. And in this conference, the term artificial intelligence was first coined. And researchers at this time wanted to show that a machine can do something theoretically, but they found difficulty in applying it to more difficult problems or wider problems such as combinational explosion. An early AI system is affected by lack of data and system limitation in process and memory capacity, and etc. Uh, uh, so in 1974, after the golden age of artificial intelligence, researchers could not fulfill the need of investors because researchers gave an optimistic view to investors during the golden age. The outcome could not reach the expectation, then funding cut to it led it to funding cut to artificial intelligence. But in the early 1980s, Japan launched the fifth generation computer system project, a large-scale funding for AI. And at this time, when Japan was having a lot of time for possible economic miracle, uh, Western countries were interested in Japanese way, and some countries invested in AI in Japan. And at this time, expert systems have been developed to help decision makers make judgments. And it was a rules-based system created by inputting knowledge of human experts one by one. But hundreds of systems were created, but smaller systems were less useful and larger systems were more expensive to develop and maintain. And the second AI winter came in the late 1980s. But in 1990s, a neural network learned through experience found naturalized generations from cases and found hidden statistical patterns. And therefore, neural network was useful for pattern recognition and classification. And evolutionary-based methods such as genetic algorithms and genetic programming have been used widely, even though they had less academical effects. And in the evolutionary way, candidate solutions are created, and new solutions are created in combination and mutation, and new solutions are selected by choosing the best solution. And this has created an efficient solution to a variety of problems. But there are also difficulties such as having to create a representational format in order for the evolutionary method to work well. And there are also problems such as combinational explosion still. But in 2010s, people had the ability to explain heterogeneous techniques in a common mathematical frame. And as an example, neural network can classify classifiers. Also in many fields, AI has already surpassed humans, and it is very difficult to analyze visual scenes, recognize objects, and control robots in a natural environment. However, there is continuous development, and we'll probably find a solution. So, Jungwoo, can you continue the presentation?
Oh, yes. So from now, I'll discuss about how AI work. Next slide, please. First, there are three types of AI: weak, general, and strong AI. Weak AI, which is also known as narrow AI, is focused on a single task that machines are designed to perform. Specific tasks, and ANI has the least complexity compared to other categories. For the general AI, focus on involving tasks that human being can perform. The last one is strong AI, which is the highest form of AI that will perform the surpass of human mind. Next slide, please. Then our group will compare the strong AI and weak AI. Strong AI is mostly unsupervised and used more clustered or association data processing, and typically known for being able to teach itself things. For example, when people say good morning in the kitchen, The machine makes the toast and coffee for them, and the programmer do competition with AI. For the weak AI, it is operated to be supervised or programming that is a simulation of human thoughts and interaction, and it processes narrow and limited intelligence which takes over vertical tasks from a human brain. For instance, Siri, Kakao Mini, and OK Google, they just respond to voices and only do what people say. Next slide, please.
I'd like to remind you, when we're talking about those classifications, we skipped talking about the IBM Watson, and IBM Watson seems to be more developed than the others, but they're all very impressive. Go ahead, keep going.
Thank you. So for now, we will have a look at the goal of AI. What is the goal of AI? It is mainly categorized in two ways. First, scientific goals, which says to understand the mechanisms behind human intelligence. Another one is engineering goals, which says to develop concepts and tools for building intelligent agents capable of solving real-world problems. Next slide, please. Here are some traits of engineering goals that took the most attention to the word: reasoning and problem solving. Early researchers developed algorithms that imitated step-by-step reasoning, which humans use to solve. Knowledge representation, and knowledge. Engineering is central to AI research. Machines are in need of. Oh, sorry, can you hold for a second, please?
Human learning. We need to
Sorry.
rely on AI.
May I keep going? So machines are in need of extensive knowledge about the world in order to solve many problems. Ontology is a representation of what exists. This is objects, relations, concepts that machines know about. The upper ontology provides the basic for all the knowledge. Planning intelligent agents should know how to set a goal to achieve goals. They need to represent the state of the world and predict how it is going to change. Then they need to have a choice that maximizes the available utility. Machine learning, a fundamental concept of AI research since the field's inception, is the study of computer algorithms that improve automatically through experience. Unsupervised learning is the ability to find patterns in a stream of input. Classification is used to determine what category something belong in. After seeing a number of examples of how things from several categories, regression is the attempt to produce a function that describes the relationship between input and outputs and predicts how the output should change as the input changes. Next one is social intelligence. This affect computing is the study and development of systems that can recognize, interpret, process, and simulate human effects. For the next one is creativity. A subfield of AI addresses creativity both theoretically and practically. In theoretical way, it follows the philosophical and psychological perspective, while AI systems generate novel and useful output in practical way. Also, there are computational research, including artificial intuition and artificial thinking in some related areas. Even though artificial intelligence affects a lot positively and lead to better world, there must be some challenges and scope in the future. Yeah.
Okay.
Next presenter will continue the presentation.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk about the application of AI in our business and life. First, AI marketing. Data-driven, hyper-personal targeting allows advertisements and product recommendations to be shown only to desired targets. Like, you may have experience, like when you search some product in Google or Naver, and when you read newspapers, at the side, the product that I searched in is appearing and makes my attention. takes my attention. That's the one. And in addition, quick feedback is possible by responding to customers through chatbots. Large companies like such as Samsung develop and use their own AI system, but SMEs which lack developers and funds can meet their needs through AI system providing companies such as Humus Own, Groovy, and Opgen, and there are lots of AI marketing companies are available. And next, AI interview. Beyond video interviews, online interviews, AI interviews are being introduced nowadays. So when you start, this is how it works. When you start the interview, 5 to 6 questions will come up in order, and the system gives 1 minute to prepare for each questions. Then the applicant's answering the question is recorded. Different companies have different types of questions and patterns. They match recorded interviews, videos with resume and measure the applicant's competency too. So it delivers information to clients where the company opened the interview after a comparative analysis of applicants, which aspects and are superior and which fall behind compared to other competitors. So
one of the things that I would like you guys to make sure is clear for the class is examples of AI. So for example, Arthur, Adrian, are you aware of several different uses of AI?
Yeah, there's a lot. It can be used in marketing. It can be used in financial. There's a lot of type of AI. So yeah, I'm aware.
Okay, you're aware how it impacts your life. For example, making a phone call to a hotel. Those phone calls are almost always answered by chatbots and not answered by people, things like that. And as she was just saying, the idea of a lot of these big companies now, when you start getting the interviews are also being managed by AI. And so what I would like you guys to be aware of is how to work with that. When you are working with AI, with a chat bot, it's helpful to know how that is programmed and how it's working in order for you to provide the answer that they're seeking. If you understand that the AI is not a human, you can do much better in interviews.
Those companies that provide AI interview are HireVue, Sunru, and Interview Box. There are a lot of companies that that makes it possible. And AI automotive. AI is being implemented in automotive manufacturing, transportation, and services. Robots are working with humans at the same time and learning automotive manufacturing techniques like design, part manufacturing, assembly with the help of AI. So AI also plays an important role in driver assistance technology like Tesla, and is widely used in modern automobiles. It can be used to monitor the driver's eye, whether they are asleep, tired, or not. And AI can also play an important role in aftermarket services. Currently, many AI applications predict problems related to engine performance, battery performance, etc., that may occur in the future. So in addition, there are many AI-based insurers that provide customers with fast services such as insurance subscriptions and claims payments. So next slide, please. Next. So AI has come close to our life too. Google Assistant, Siri, and Bixby are included in home appliances and smart gadgets, providing convenient features in our life. Under financial services, AI empowers smart chatbots that provide comprehensive self-help solutions to customers while reducing the workload of call centers. And the largest US banks, such as Wells Fargo, Bank of America and Chase have launched mobile banking apps that provide reminders that can interact with banks in an easier and more efficient way, from billing, planning, and obtaining information to completing transactions. And artificial intelligence enabled software validates data according to give parameters, generate reports, review documents, and extracts information from forms like application, contracts, etc. The adoption of robotic process automation for high-frequency interactive tasks eliminates room for human error and allows financial institutions to refocus their workforce efforts on processes that require human interventions. Sorry. And under education, also, artificial intelligence is a technique for tailoring for the experiences of different learning groups, teachers, and tutors. First one, this is I got the information from e-learning industry company. First, they provide personalized education. Considering the knowledge gap, artificial intelligence establishes a customized learning schedule for each learner to help them understand what students are doing and what they do not know. And second, produce smart content like digital lessons, information visualization, learning content updates, and also contribute to task automation. This means that administrative task simplification, grading, assessing, and replying to students is a time-consuming activity, but that could be optimized by the teacher by using AI. First one is tutoring. Continuously evolving personal learning programs take into account the gaps in students to fill during individual classes. And fifth one is help students in need of special needs, like the adoption of innovative AI technologies opens up new ways to interact with students with learning disabilities. The information comes from a company, you can see more details about through their website. So under healthcare, this was interesting. Artificial intelligence typically simplifies the lives of patients, doctors, and hospital administrators by performing what people do at less time and at low cost. With the help of AI, making diagnosis efficiently with less error, developing new medicine more efficient and accurate, streamlining the patient experience, mining and managing medical data, and assisting surgery with AI robots are done. Next slide, please. So the pros and cons of AI. First advantage, less error. By gathering data and certain algorithms, errors are reduced and increased chance of high accuracy. Next, repetitive jobs. By carried out with the help of machine intelligence, tasks can be done more effectively and reduce cost of training and operation. Unlike human, the machine can operate 24/7 by not affecting by internal and external factors. Next, please. So cons, the disadvantage, unemployment. This is an issue in AI part. Increase of using number of machine leads to unemployment and job security issues. But some people say that when jobs are eliminated, the AI services and technique jobs will be available, but not now. We still have to catch up in the gap. So restricted critical thinking still can't deny that a human has more critical thinking, and abuse of artificial intelligence. People are using high technology in improper ways, such as cyber terror or military weapons. So next slide, please. So challenges of AI. First is the computing power. This means that machine learning and deep learning are stepping stones to this artificial intelligence. and they require ever-increasing cores and GPUs to operate efficiently, but they need the computing power of supercomputers, of course. Supercomputers are not that cheap. Second is the trust deficit. One of the most important factors of concern for AI is the unknown nature of how deep learning models predict the output. And furthermore, many people around the world don't even know the use or existence of AI and how it integrates into the everyday objects they interact with. The third is limited knowledge. Very few people are aware of the possibility of AI, and other than technology enthusiasts, college students, and researchers. Fourth is the human level. AI is trained on millions of images and fine-tuned for maximum accuracy. But the real problem is that it continues to show errors and really struggles to reach human level performance. Fifth one is data privacy and security. Deep and machine learning models are based on data and resources to train them. So this data is generated by millions of users around the world and is likely to be used for bad purposes. Sixth one is bias problem. The good or bad of AI systems actually depends on the amount of data they are trained on. So therefore, the ability to obtain good data is the solution for good AI systems in the future. But in practice, however, organizations have scant data they collect every day and little self-importance. So seventh one is the data scarcity. Due to less quality data, the quality data are not that provide well. Data scarcity occurs nowadays. Thank you. This is our references for the.
I'd like to hear from the class what you guys are aware of. The last slide that she presented, talking about, for example, human trust. Trust, exactly this. What is the class aware of? For example, I myself worked as an executive in a company developing artificial intelligence with cars and cars being able to drive around communities. They used the robotics in cars and transport trucks in San Francisco over 20 years ago, and they stopped using it because of the trust deficit that you're talking about on the human level. But could you guys understand why would they stop using it 20 years ago? Can you guess? Like, even though I'm telling you the answer is the trust deficit, what does that mean?
I think it's in 2000 the people were scared about the informatic stuff gonna have big problem with the switch of the year. So the trust in this tool was not really good, so they stopped to use it. And now we can prove it there are no bug and we can use it at 100% and not to be scared. So I think that's why they stop and now they restart to use it.
Okay, that's if I give you a little bit more knowledge about what I was working with. I was working with a camera company, and we could attach cameras to cars, and they could go over a road, and they could map the road. They could also attach it to a gyro so that any bumps or any movements would be recorded. And so every small little shake or movement, together with videoing driving over a road, was recorded. They used that to identify which roads needed to be repaired more than the others. They also attached this into planes, and they would fly the plane over top of cities, and they would be able to use something like an ultrasound over top of mountains and identify what were the contents inside, like if there's oil or gas or diamonds or gold inside the mountains. And so the simple version of attaching these computers to cars, being able to control the car and it would drive on its own, it stopped working because the people didn't trust the computers to allow the computer to control a truck at 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour down in San Francisco. Because it was all controlled by computers, the computers understood wind resistance was creating the biggest problem, and lack of money for companies. So they made these giant trucks driving sometimes 5 centimeters away from each other at more than 100 kilometers an hour. And they would have humans, drivers in the trucks for backup, but those humans were too afraid of being that close to another truck driving at 100 kilometers an hour at the same time. So that trust deficit, where the humans didn't trust the technology, even though it's been around for over 20 years. And so the technology is out there. When we start talking about Elon Musk and Tesla and the idea of self-driving cars, that's been around for decades, a long time. The biggest problem is people actually accepting some of this stuff. And so you guys should be very aware of how it can impact you, because your jobs may disappear in an instant. Some people say that a lot of transportation and delivery jobs or agency jobs are disappearing throughout, especially the southern United States for some reason. Like postal service jobs or UPS jobs are being eliminated, and it's being replaced by robots or drones. Things like that. And the agency jobs are being eliminated. For example, in a restaurant, you go to a restaurant, you usually walk up to a counter and you tell some person your order. Well, those people are being replaced by kiosks. Some people are starting to order even before they get to the building, get to the restaurant. And so if you have a job that is a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant, or in a bank or a teller, some of those jobs are being eliminated very quickly. You might want to definitely be aware of how it impacts you guys. Are any of you aware of jobs that have been taken over by AI?
Translator.
Translating jobs are being eliminated. Yes, Google Translate is one thing, and
In factory for baby car, we use we use again a bit humans, but we use every time robots, if you can say that, to create the car.
could you explain a little bit more? What do you mean about
I
AI?
mean, at the beginning to create the car, we need a lot of people to add all the stuff to create this car, and now the old people use robots with some programs who come from AI to do the job instead of a human. So
Okay.
now we don't get we fire the workers to get some machine to do the job instead of the human.
Yes. For example, I've been in several factories in Vietnam that are making Kia cars and Mazda cars and the French Peugeot cars. And I expected those factories that are huge, sometimes going for like a kilometer in space, would have a lot of people working for them. And I was surprised those huge bases only had maybe 2 or 3 workers controlling the control center of many different robotic centers. Almost everything was all mechanized. The welding, the picking up and the delivery of components from one area to another, it's all computerized now. So yes, it's impacting your jobs quite rapidly. Any other examples of people that have interacted with AI? Have any of you had any of the company interviews controlled by AI?
Not me, but my friend.
Could you describe any of the details?
Yeah, he said first he got some links, and when he opened the link, some the manager pops up and explains, this is blah 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 blah, and good luck. And after that, some questions appears and gives him to prepare for the answer for a minute. And after a minute, the computer start to record what he answers, and 5 to 6 questions were there.
Okay.
And yeah.
Did I hear, Julie, you were interested in working for consulting companies? Because I know of McKinsey Consulting and some of the other big consulting companies, they use a lot of artificial intelligence for their interviews at the beginning. And what they would usually do is they would have the candidates, as you just heard, they have to start at a certain time. They would go to a certain website and then click on a button that would take them to a new site, and everything is timed, everything is controlled, everything is watched, and the candidate is being videoed at the same time. And so they see the whole interaction, how that person, how fast they can understand the directions, and they go through one site to the next site, and the whole idea of sometimes they will be interacting with some friendly people, and they need to identify how fast that person can take over a management role and tell somebody what to do. And sometimes they will video that person actually having an argument with, it looks like another human being, but it's actually a robot that you're arguing with. And that robot is designed to argue with you on purpose, because the company is watching how you manage conflict. So a lot of these interactions are really, really interesting. It's not just how fast you go through it, but they're also checking things like your personality. Some of you are aware of the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs Typology Indicator, and the Jung Typology Tests. Those type of features are coming more and more into play, because they're identifying personality styles, and putting that into the robotic system, and making management decisions based off of the ideal situations. So it would be very good for you guys to identify which company you want to work with in the future, and start researching a lot about them. Find out what they're doing. Start doing research about them before you go to the interview, like make a class paper related to them. And at the same time, learn about who you are and who you are different than other people. For example, identify which type of learning style you have, and identify which type of learning style doesn't match you the most. Sometimes these artificial interviews or interactions are looking for these research proposed ideas, like Freudian methodologies. So the more you know about these AI systems, the more you know about how potential companies could be using them in the future, and the more you know about who you might be as a candidate compared to other possible candidates, it definitely helps you going forward. Any questions about the use of AI and the applications of AI in class? As I understand, we're also going to be having another person, Zarnigar. Are you able to start talking about some of your details now?
Yeah, I can also start presenting.
Okay, we're waiting for you to start presenting. We've got just 75 minutes of class.
Okay. So, hi everyone. Today I'm gonna talk about what makes millennials and Gen Z so different. I mostly focused on work and work-life balance. Um, so the first stuff, we're gonna talk about how they're gonna collide at work. Um, yeah, I cannot see it myself. Um, yeah, so in 2016, the workhouse is undergoing seismic change as 3.6 million baby boomers are set to retire. One fourth of millennial workers will take in management roles, and Generation Z, those born between 1994 and 2010, has started to enter the workforce. Employers are likely to recall the impact that millennials brought to the workplace due to their dramatically different perspectives about work. That adjustment is about to be magnified as Gen Z, who in many ways appear to be exaggerated version of millennial cohort, radically enters the workplace. Recent and future plays have studied millennials, aka Generation Y and Gen Z, since 2014, when two companies embarked on a groundbreaking survey that benchmark the unique traits and workplace values to the next generation of talent. Now it's in second research initiative. Recent and future workplace have uncovered remarkably new understanding of two generations as they collide in the workplace for the first time. Um, Gen Z and millennials collide at work study revealed that the emergence of collaboration generation is impinging the way employees provide and leverage collaborative practice in the workplace. The workplace Gen Z 6 has largely shaped by their jaded upbringing among recessionary economy, rising healthcare co-host and mounting students loans as a result driving force for retention and engagement for these workers centers around financial rewards, care, career advancement, motivation, and work-life balance. If technology courses through the veins of millennials, then technology can be considered Gen Z sixth sense. Any organization seeking to recruit, engage, and retain those generations will be hard pressed if they aren't incorporating emerging social and digital technologies into workplace. But it's not as easy as simply providing access to these tools. These generations so as struggle to rein in the discretion of such technologies. With newly appointed management roles come Mason, for many millennials, our study has exposed a serious crisis among millennial managers, many of whom are simply not prepared or equipped with the EQ, emotional quotient, and people skill required effectively manage a team. As both generations continue to increase their presence in today's workplace, um, suit and the HR executives have to understand these young workers and develop programs to best utilize their strengths and set them up for sources. Coming up to the next slide, we can see the Tracing the Code um, of online generations. And the first thing we can see is that Gen Z and millennials may not work for you or anyone else, meaningly they're probably going to work for themselves or set up their own business. As it's shown, 37% of Gen Z and 32% of millennials aspire to be leader at a company they start or they own. Um, and they have communicative leadership. Millennials and Gen Z will be knocking, as both generations said. Communication is the most and important quality of a leader, followed by support and honesty. Um, and coming up to the third one, they are probably likely to travel a lot and change their workplaces. It's shown that 26% Gen Z and 23% of millennials plan to work in 2 countries. And on the other hand, 19% of Gen Z and 16% of millennials planning to work in 3 other countries. And the last one is Gen Z and millennials co-workers enable their best work, means they need the best environment to have the best productivity. Gen Z and millennials say the top workplace attribute that the enables them to do their best work is 56% the people they work with, and 52% the type of work they do, and 38% is the ability to both focus and collaborate with the workplace. And coming on to the next slide, we can see globally, millennials and Gen Z identify the most effective communication methods are in person is 39% and 16 in email, 11% over phone, and 10% instant messaging. And type of coworkers that help Gen Z and millennials to do their work is 31% coworkers willing to work as hard as you, meaning they're not gonna be lame or lazy. If they're gonna have a good communication skills, they're gonna be as hard worker as the other people. And 21% workers who likely to collaborate, means if they can collaborate, they can have the best achievement. How Gen Z and millennials want their managers to engage with them to do their best work. 51% by listening to and valuing their ideas and opinions. 46% by mentoring and giving quality feedback regularly. And the next slide, keeping younger generations engaged and retained. We have employment challenge by millennials as and Gen Z will stay loyal to the workplace. If not emotionally connected to the job, rewards can be helpful, money talking, but are we listening? So coming to the employment challenge by millennials. Let me find it. Employment challenge by millennials. So employment challenge by millennials, we can say that employers today are faced with an employment challenge. They desperately need millennials, but can't seem to retain them. In fact, a recent Gallup report in the millennial generation reveals that 21% have changed the jobs between past years of 2010, 2020. More than 3 times of number of non-millennials who report having done so. And Gen Z will stay loyal to the workplace if the place is meets their satisfaction. Early indications reveal bare news when it comes to Gen Z and their willingness to stay with one company. However, if employers don't begin to take cue what their leadership styles and workplace practices will need to adapt and evolve to meet the needs of the younger generations, they will find themselves navigating similar waters with the new generation as well, and not emotionally connected to the job. The Redstand and Future Workplace study found that many of the engagement and retention drivers for these workers center around financial rewards and motivation, as well as coping with stress and finding a good work life. Money talks, but are we listening? A fair share on the research exists that confirms millennials and Gen Z workers are more interested in working for something they believe in, for a company, those values, what they share. A recent report by Deloitte indicates that millennials who intend to stay with their organizations for a at least 5 years are far more likely than others to report a positive culture and shared purposes. And coming up to the next slide, we have supporting the most stressed out generation. What we mean is there is a reason why millennials have been called stress generation. According to American Psychological Association, millennials experience more stress and are less able to manage it than any other generation. It's easy to understand why when you consider the economic and labor market this generation faced after graduation and beyond. Their younger counterparts, Gen Z, may not be faring much better as they graduate with skyrocketing student debt and the rocky labor market. In fact, more than half of Gen Z are either somewhat or very worried about future. Um, and next generation recruitment is our next slide. It talks about modern life experiences and technology influences of Gen Z are changing and impacting the jobs they will choose and how they will choose them, while their attributes make for a very flexible and dynamic workplace, ready to take on challenges that previous generations might struggle with. This flexibility comes with expectation, and engaging with these workers requires a different approach. And in the next slide, we can see there are a lot of considerations of the tips we can say to attract and retain Gen Z talent. There are 4 of them. So the first one is positioning yourself as a technology savvy company. It means Gen Z are using a lot of social media online and a lot of online platforms to access prospective job opportunities. So they will probably approach the most technological way to support their working places and invest in real-time development and feedback. Gen Z wants to know what is expected of them and where they stand. Let's say this is the most important one for Gen Z when they are working, so that they know what they have to do and when they have to do, and they can be offered new challenges and variable characteristics to create opportunity and discourage role hopping, and focus on your brand. Experience of working in a positive environment and culture that promotes diversity is important to Gen Z. Consider how culture is represented through social media channels, websites, interview processes, and once hired through the environment and working practices. And the last one is listening well. I have already mentioned in the previous slides. Gen Z employees might treat their managers more like peers than generations before and may not work tirelessly to serve your needs. But if you listen and engage them, they will be productive and work hard to achieve their objectives. Sound alarms. We have millennial manager crisis. Um, as I have already mentioned, millennials are not prepared. It can be dramatic, but the truth is that the crisis is unfolding as companies begin to see more millennials taking on manager level positions. We can ask why. Because as the global red stand and future workplace research indicates, millennials are simply not prepared, not equipped with the emotional quotient, as I have mentioned, and soft skills required to effectively manage others. Study at Future Workplace found that 83% of responders have seen millennials managing Gen X and baby boomers in their offices. Meanwhile, these older generations hold a general sentiment that millennials are unqualified or ill-equipped for the manager position. And preparing for a managerial role is largely lacking. According to many millennials, the Randstad and Future Workplace Survey, in fact, only 28% of millennials say their current job relates extremely well that they are studied during their educations. And coming up to the conclusion, we have collaboration, collaborative tools and processes to fulfill expectations of Gen Z and millennial generations while seamlessly integrating them into exercising workflow to maximize workplace performance, career advancement, frequent and abundant professional development and career advancement opportunities, financial stability, shoring up of wage disparities, and providing employee recognition and rewards that deliver younger generation our financial stability they desperately seek. Technology, integration of the social and emerging technologies that will satisfy Gen Z and millennial desire such tools while enabling more productivity and less distraction. Managerial training, talent assessment and development initiative for millennial managers so they may effectively perform and succeed in their valuable roles. And last one is work-life balance, formal work-life balance programs that will help younger generations manage the work stress. And this was the conclusion, and the last slide is the sources I took to make this presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks. Are there any questions from the class about AI and the millennial generation or Generation Z before I start assigning the class to develop the AI-focused keywords for your presentations of your topics and your work-life balance? Any questions related to the topics to start with? I hope you are all very well aware of how you will be interacting with AI in the workforce going forward. At the same time, because we have the millennial and Generation Y and Generation Z issues with management, I want to use the last few minutes of class to assign everyone to be able to give not only the keywords and the lessons that you will be teaching for your work-life balance with the company, but be able to give something, a statement to a company so that you are offering something of value to that company. So any questions or comments from you guys before we start doing this last few minutes assignment? No? Okay, I'm going to be putting you all into groups again to work on your term paper presentation of the key topics that you're learning. Everyone has a term project, a term paper you have developed. You need to be able to teach something of value to the company, offer something of value to help them. You must assume that other person is a manager in the company, is very, very well aware of some of the details. So you need to be able to give a statement to the other people in your breakout rooms. And then I need to get you to be able to follow it up with a couple of short statements. So each one of you will join breakout rooms and give a statement to the other person about what it is you're teaching and a few sentences to back that up. And when you give your statements to back it up, I want to make sure all of you, especially the people that have presented today, listen clearly and make sure you present with proper references. because everybody can work online nowadays, everybody should be aware that everyone has access to Einstein. And so if you just give your opinion, that other person could tear you apart. You need to be able to give some statement teaching something new to the company and try to give some statement to support it, but with a reference. So make sure you start by giving a reference saying this is to a well-respected Scopus article, or this is from the most prominent researcher in this field, or this is from one of the most active researchers in this industry. So make sure you don't just say your idea and say your thoughts. Try to give your lesson to the company and a couple of sentences that is the literature review, the background support, but identify where that support is coming from.